Time on this Wednesday to catch up with Dale and Jerry and see what adventures they've been up to. And let's say good morning, gang.
Hi, Jeff.
How you guys doing?
Good morning, Jeff.
We are doing great. How are you?
I've been well. It's been a week, I think, since we talked last on the air about things that you guys have been up to, and there's been a lot of things going on. I was talking to Sheriff Salisbury Monday, and I was letting him know that as I was here Friday, every so often, some tweets would pop up from his breakfast, and I saw the back of your head, Jerry. So I'm assuming you guys were at this thing.
Yes,
that's one of the things?
It was well attended, informative, dynamic breakfast meeting. It certainly was that last Friday morning, the monthly sheriff's breakfast, and insightful, certainly. You know, topics that were not even in the lexicon of language 20 years ago.
Oh, sure.
And there's a 3-hour discussion about that whole thing. And it was really, for me, you know, having been presented by the King County Sheriffs and by the Seattle Police Department, pretty eye-opening.
Sure.
It really was. And I think...
Mostly this transgender issues, is this what we're talking about?
Yeah. And it was, you know, it was one of those things that I think they kind of set it up to try to hit you in the back of the head and not let you see it coming, you know? Because it was just social media, and it was just relations and police with community relations, and it was a generic kind of a title. But then as you looked at the guest list, and you're looking, and you're going, well, this is going to get a little deeper than just that.
Yeah.
So it was really, I thought I was really happy to have attended. I'm glad that I attended.
Did it change your perspective
I think it did.
Outlook a little bit?
I think it broadened my outlook a little bit.
Oh, good. Yeah. I think that was the whole point Sheriff Salisbury wanted to bring.
It was a little deeper and a little more real than you realize.
Sure.
Because part of it, the speakers were made up of and I don't know the alphabet soup title, the lesbian, gay, you know, transsexual. So some of the speakers were there. There was also, you know, a mediator from the feds that was there, a little short guy, Night Shore. And I got an opportunity to talk to him prior to that about some different things that, you know, go on. And he's the mediator. He's the one that goes and tries to, you know, understand the issues and the directions that we need to be moving. And we absolutely don't realize how real this entire situation is, and that you can't ignore it. You can stick your head in the sand, but sooner or later it's right beside you. So that was really, really insightful.
Oh, very good.
But
what else has been going on?
Well, of course, we want to acknowledge the passing of the school bond.
Whoa, how great is that?
That is terrifically
great.
exciting.
I am sure that Dr. Apostle went home and slept for a week. Because he had put a lot of effort. A lot of people put a lot of effort, and kudos to them. And also, we want to remind everybody that the Pride Night, which is next week, everybody's got an invitation to it, and that's another form of community recognition and bonding that help us move on.
Yeah, another opportunity to celebrate
for sure
as a community.
Tuesday night from 5:30 to 6:45 at the Mini Dome. So that'll be a fun event.
Yeah, we invite everybody to come on up and join us. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then other things that I attended yesterday afternoon, a briefing on the Belfair sewer debt, and that, as we all know, was an audit finding in the last state audit that we had, and how the county's going to address that. Not an easy nut to crack. Their plans and forecasts of how things were supposed to work out haven't really materialized. That build it and they will come, that's great, but what happens with the sewer, build it and they will come, there aren't that many opportunities for hookup and whatnot. So quite a complex issue that the commission is dealing with and trying to get a handle on. And so if you get an opportunity or see it on the agenda for the commission meetings or briefings, you check out the Mason County website and the agendas, and you'll see that it's very informative and something that the county is a big weight on the county.
Well, I mean, even if you don't live in Belfair or you're not even near the sewer, it's not an incorporated city. So the the brunt of the...
All of us pay for that.
The whole county is paying for this.
But it can be a very beneficial part of the county. It's got to be utilized.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, and that was the other part that they're looking at, is they're also looking at how do we expand potential users, i.e. to the SEPA area of Kitsap County, which includes the port and whatnot, which would provide some. But once again, it takes money to get there. So that's really a big issue. Paying back the debt and then being able to invest in the future is a huge issue for them. And another thing that is coming up that I've had to deal with personally, and we'll let the through the news let people know when these meetings come up, but there is going to be a meeting with the county and with FEMA representatives there. As we all know, that FEMA has issued new flood maps, and it's changing the requirements for a lot of properties. Part of that, too, is it's like the insurance companies, the lenders don't understand. So I have a lender, even though I have went through the effort of identifying and proving that my property is outside of the floodplain, but they aren't accepting that. They're still demanding that I purchase flood insurance, which is very expensive, to the tune of mine is $2,600 a year. The flood insurance here on this property, I think, is $3,500.
Oh, wow.
And so FEMA has offered, if you don't want to continue with those hikes, and you can get a certificate of elevation, blah, blah, blah. I've got that. But so there's a lot of things that are going to come up for the people. And so I encourage them to watch for that FEMA meeting and attend it, especially if they're in the floodplain. I think they said it affected over 2,000 people in the county, most of them in the North End.
Wow.
So the meeting will be held in the North End.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other last thing, I'm part of the fundraising committee as a board member on Habitat for Humanity, and they're planning an event, always trying to find a date that is...
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, right.
And there's always conflicts.
Right.
If you don't do it years in advance, you're going to come. There's a conflict.
Well, even if you do it years in advance, there is a problem. Well, so this first date that they picked out, well, we've changed it several times, but first date that they picked out, and we're getting ready to advertise that date, conflicts with the Matlock Fair.
Old Timers
Fair.
So. First weekend of May.
But
yeah, that's when that is.
Anyway, this event is more like a block party, trying to offer things like building a shed. We know that that's what Habitat does, is build. So there's build a shed, a couple sheds, maybe auction them off. There was an idea of competition. And then there will be other things there, like to reuse, refurbish materials that you might find there at the Habitat store. And then there'll be a couple of food vendors and whatnot.
That'll
so it's still evolving.
Clown or two.
Sure.
Right. And the first date was targeted the same date, I think, as the Matlock Fair, and we're changing that, I think.
Okay.
And we'll let you know more about that. But that's what I've been up to, and Dale and I both went to the sheriff's breakfast. And
you've been busy with work.
Oh, yeah.
Yard work.
Well, yeah. Homework.
Yeah,
he's trying to cover up those holes that I'm going to throw him in and cover them.
And dig them up. So what is the, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, what's the elevation of your home as we kind of look back at this floodplain thing? How high up from what do they say it is?
Well, see, we're on the canal, and I have a 15-foot bulkhead, of which there's the high water line leaves a good 8 to 5 feet.
Okay.
And then the house is up a little bit above that. So there's about 10 feet above the flood elevation.
Would you say that's an average height above water for houses around these parts?
Yeah, it's hard to establish an average, but it's most of which, there's a couple, a lot of the homes were built on fill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the concern, I think, that people have.
Well, and what happens is your parcel will be tagged as being in a floodplain, any portion of it. So if your house is higher up on the hill, it's still considered a floodplain unless you do this certificate of elevation that tells exactly the elevation of where your house is before it would flood. And after all, the flood insurance covers the house. Not very much.
Not very much.
I've heard the average payout on if your house is totaled, it's like $32,000.
That's not
regardless of the price of your
You're paying a lot every year.
And so it's one of these that really, is that the best use of my money and effort? And FEMA is broke.
Well,
I mean, come on, let's look and see how much money they put out in the last year.
Well, keep us up to date on how this is all going.
Well, I'll be sure and let them know, because this is something that I'm finding very frustrating myself, and I can be aggressive, as we all know.
The adventures continue.
Mama ain't happy.
The adventures continue with Dale and Jerry.